All right, strap yourselves in for this one.
Oh, yeah.
We're diving deep into the disappearance of Heather Elvis
Yeah.
from Myrtle Beach back in 2013. You guys really outdid yourselves with the source material this time.
I know, right?
Articles, court documents, even audio recordings.
Yeah.
It's gonna be wild.
It is.
Was this a crime of passion or a cold and calculated act? Let's see if the digital trail can tell us.
Yeah, you know what really gets me about this whole thing is how, like,
What's
all these ordinary digital traces, phone calls,
right?
texts, even deleted data became like these silent witnesses.
Silent witnesses?
Almost like they helped crack the case wide open.
I like that, silent witnesses.
Yeah.
So Heather Elvis, she was a 20-year-old cosmetology student
Okay.
working at the Tilted Kilt.
Oh, yeah, I know that place.
It's a popular restaurant in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah?
A vacation paradise.
Mm-hmm.
December 18th, 2013, her life takes a dark turn.
Oh, no.
A police officer finds her car abandoned.
Abandoned?
At Peachtree Landing.
Wow.
No sign of Heather. Obviously, her family is frantic.
Right, of course. But that abandoned car.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning.
Okay.
This is so much more than just a missing person case.
Right.
It's like, as investigators dig deeper,
Yeah.
they uncover this whole secret relationship.
Ooh, a secret relationship.
It just adds, like,
Another layer.
another layer, exactly.
It just gets more and more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Heather's affair with Sydney Moore,
Sydney Moore.
the maintenance man at the Tilted Kilt.
Right.
Much older.
Older.
Married.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's like something straight out of a soap opera.
Totally. And on top of that,
What?
Sydney was trying to reconcile with his wife, Tammy.
Tammy?
When Tammy finds out about the affair.
Oh, this is not good.
I know. And we're not just talking like quiet heartbreak here.
What do you mean?
There's evidence of like harassment, phone calls,
Yeah.
threatening messages,
Oh.
all aimed at Heather.
Hold on. Harassment? Like, what are we talking? What kind of harassment?
More like coworkers were making prank calls,
Prank calls.
pretending to be Tammy.
Oh, come on.
I know, right?
That's messed up.
Yeah, Heather was genuinely scared of Tammy.
So the affair ends
Right.
about 6 weeks before Heather disappears.
6 weeks.
If it was truly over,
Yeah.
why was Tammy still so fixated on Heather? It doesn't add up.
No, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
That cooling off period makes her actions later seem even more suspicious.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
The night Heather vanished, she's home alone.
Alone.
Roommate's out of town.
Okay.
She'd gone on a date with a guy from high school
Okay.
who dropped her off around 1 a.m.
1 a.m.
And here's where the plot starts to thicken.
What happened?
Phone records
Sound record?
show a call
Yeah.
to Heather from a payphone
Okay, well.
near her apartment
All right.
at 1:35 a.m.
Okay.
The call lasts almost 5 minutes.
7 minutes.
Who even uses payphones these days? Right. It just screams, I'm trying to hide something.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey.
Come on.
Exactly.
All right, so
Yeah.
guess who pops up on surveillance footage at a nearby Walmart just minutes before that payphone call?
I don't know who.
Sydney Moore.
No way.
And the
Yeah.
clothes he was wearing in the Walmart footage matched the description of the person at the payphone.
Oh, wow. So
It would have been a tight squeeze,
right.
but possible to get from the Walmart to that payphone in that time frame.
So Sydney makes a secret call to Heather.
We don't know that for sure.
True. But why else would he be there?
But why?
Right. Well, luckily, we have another piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Heather's roommate.
She was out of town?
Out of town, right. But they talked on the phone.
Right after the payphone call.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Heather was upset. Crying even.
Oh, no. What happened?
She told her roommate that Sydney called her, said he'd left Tammy and wanted to be with her.
Oh, he was playing with her emotions.
Playing games.
Poor Heather.
I know. Young, vulnerable.
Sydney was dangling this relationship in front of her.
Yeah.
No wonder she was confused.
It's a mess.
Her roommate told her to stay put.
Mm-hmm.
But Heather was clearly drawn back into Sydney's orbit.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Right.
Yeah. But the thing is, the digital trail backs it up.
Okay.
After talking to her roommate,
Yeah.
Heather went to a bar, came home, and then drove across town to Peachtree Landing.
Where her car was found.
Exactly.
Hold on, so get this. Phone records show she made several calls to Sydney's cell from Peachtree Landing. He was the last person known to have spoken to her.
Wow. So
what happened next? Was this a planned meeting, or did something go terribly wrong?
okay, so
Yeah.
when investigators confront Sydney, his story starts to fall apart.
Okay.
He denies making the payphone call.
Denies it.
But then they show him the Walmart footage.
Busted.
Totally busted.
Yeah.
He admits to the call, finally.
Okay.
But he says Heather wanted to meet. He claims he went straight home to Tammy that night.
Okay, but his alibi gets shaky.
Oh, how so?
Remember the Walmart trip?
Yeah.
Tammy admitted she was in the truck with him when he made that payphone call.
So, Tammy's involved?
It seems like she might have been more involved than Sydney let on.
Wait, so Tammy's in the picture now?
This just got a whole lot more complicated.
This is insane.
We're talking about a potential conspiracy here.
Oh, yeah.
Why would Sydney lie about Tammy being there unless she had something to hide?
Right.
Nah.
Unless
it's too much.
We need to take a break and come back to this.
Yeah,
You won't believe what comes next.
I bet I won't.
Oh, you won't?
Wait.
This is just the beginning.
Crazy.
Buckle up.
I'm ready.
Okay, so we left off with Sydney and Tammy together, making that late night call to Heather.
Right.
The big question is, why?
Well, there's this interesting detail.
Okay.
From some folks who knew Heather.
Apparently she thought she might have been pregnant. Around the time the affair ended.
Hold on.
She even took a pregnancy test.
Wow. Okay.
But the results were, unclear.
A pregnancy that changes everything.
Doesn't it?
Tammy's anger, her actions, it all starts to make a lot more sense now.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Tammy finds out her husband's been cheating on her.
Betrayal, and then, bam!
There's a chance he could have a child with another woman.
It's like a double whammy.
That could push anyone over the edge.
Absolutely.
Remember that Walmart trip?
Yeah, the one where
Sydney bought a pregnancy test.
All right.
He said it was for Tammy.
He did.
Said they were trying to conceive.
But knowing what we know now,
yeah,
that sounds a little too convenient.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what if they lured Heather out that night using the pregnancy test as a reason?
To, confirm it.
Maybe. Or even to deal with the situation themselves. That's terrifying.
It is.
But if that's true, it would explain why they targeted Heather weeks after the affair was over.
Right. Why wait?
It's like the pregnancy was the trigger.
Exactly. The catalyst.
Okay, so let's talk about the digital footprint.
Love it.
Remember, they replaced their home security system?
Oh, yeah, just days before Heather vanished.
And guess what?
What?
The new system conveniently skipped over the time they would have returned home that night.
So no record.
A digital blackout.
Like they were trying to erase their movements.
Way too suspicious to be a coincidence.
Right.
And it gets worse.
What else?
Investigators found out that someone used software to permanently delete threatening text messages that Tammy had sent to Heather.
Wow, so they were tech savvy enough to cover their tracks digitally.
Right.
But then they mess up with the security system.
Right.
It's like a rookie mistake.
It's a big oversight for a master plan.
You'd be surprised how often even the most tech-savvy criminals make the dumbest mistakes.
Like
tunnel vision.
They focus on the immediate threat.
Right.
Like the text messages, but they forget about the bigger picture.
They miss the forest for the trees.
Exactly.
It happens all the time.
Okay, so they tried to scrub their digital trail.
Right.
But deleted data can leave traces?
Oh, yeah.
The digital ghost.
It's true.
Right.
Think of it like ripping up a paper.
Yeah.
You think it's gone, but with enough effort, you could piece it back together.
Right.
And in this case, experts were able to reconstruct Sydney's movements based on those fragments of data.
Wow.
Putting him near key locations, contradicting his alibi.
The digital trail is tightening the noose.
Totally.
But what about physical evidence?
Right. Good question.
Anything linking them to Heather's disappearance?
Well, remember Sydney's truck?
The Ford F-150.
The one that was on camera near Peachtree Landing.
Yeah.
The GPS data from his truck for that crucial time frame. It was completely wiped.
Okay, so they knew how to cover their tracks digitally.
For sure.
But you can't erase a whole truck.
Right.
Right.
Well, actually, the truck itself becomes a key piece of evidence later on.
Interesting.
Yeah. But all this digital evidence, deleted messages, missing GPS data, that suspicious security system,
right.
It was building a strong case against the Moors.
It's like a digital web.
Yeah.
Slowly ensnaring them.
Totally.
So did the police have enough to make an arrest?
Well, the evidence was definitely mounting. And in February 2014, the police finally made their move.
Okay.
They arrest both Sydney and Tammy Moore on charges of kidnapping and conspiracy.
Wow.
But the legal battle was just beginning.
Oh, no.
Prosecuting the Moors was going to be complicated.
All right, so we're moving From the digital world to the courtroom.
From bits and bytes to gavels and juries.
And we all know how unpredictable trials can be.
Yeah, it's a whole different game.
So what were the biggest challenges for the prosecution?
Well, the most obvious one was the lack of a body.
Right.
Heather had vanished without a trace.
Without a body.
It's really hard to prove what happened to her.
It's like a puzzle with a missing piece.
Exactly.
You can see the outlines, but you're not sure how it all fits together.
Right.
So how do they build a case without that crucial piece?
Well, they had to rely on circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial?
Yeah, like piecing together the digital trail,
right.
Witness testimonies, any inconsistencies in the Moore's alibis.
Right.
It was a meticulous process.
Okay.
Like weaving a tapestry.
A tapestry.
With threads of data and suspicion.
I like that.
It's like a digital tapestry.
It sounds like the prosecution had a really tough job.
They did.
Did they manage to convince the jury?
Well, Sydney Moore's trial began in 2016.
Okay.
And it was intense. The prosecution faced an uphill battle. Especially with that time gap between the affair and Heather's disappearance.
Right.
They had to prove that the Moores had a motive to harm Heather weeks after the relationship was supposedly over.
Okay, so how did they do that?
Well, they presented the theory that Heather's possible pregnancy was the driving force.
Behind their actions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They argued that Tammy's obsession with Heather fueled by jealousy and anger, ultimately led to the kidnapping.
It's a compelling argument.
It is.
Especially with Tammy's history of controlling behavior.
Right.
And her, extreme reaction to the affair.
Totally. But the outcome of Sydney's first trial was a shock.
What happened?
The jury was hopelessly deadlocked.
Deadlocked is a mistrial.
A mistrial.
Yeah.
That must have been devastating.
I can't imagine.
For Heather's family and the prosecution.
To come so close.
Did they give up?
No way.
What happened?
They were determined to get justice for Heather.
They decided to go after Sydney on a lesser charge.
A lesser charge? What kind?
Obstruction of justice.
Obstruction of justice.
Remember his initial lies about the payphone call?
Yeah.
That's what they focused on in the second trial.
So they shifted their approach.
Yeah.
Focused on a charge they knew they could prove.
Exactly. It was a smart move.
Did it pay off?
It did.
What happened?
Sydney Moore was found guilty.
Guilty?
Of obstruction of justice.
Wow.
And sentenced to 10 years in prison.
10 years?
Yeah, it was a partial victory.
Okay.
But the fight for justice for Heather wasn't over.
Oh, okay.
The prosecution wasn't going to let the kidnapping charges go.
Okay.
They still believed
that
both Sydney and Tammy were responsible for her disappearance.
This is like a legal thriller.
It is.
Every time you think you've reached a conclusion, there's another twist.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Well, as they prepared for Tammy Moore's trial, the prosecution kept digging.
Okay.
Hoping to find more evidence.
To solidify their case.
Right. And just before Tammy's trial, two crucial pieces of evidence emerged.
Two new pieces of evidence.
Yeah, total game changer.
And this is incredible.
I know, right?
We have to take a break.
Oh, man.
We'll delve into these game-changing discoveries in part 3.
I can't wait.
Stay with us, folks.
This is getting good.
You won't want to miss this.
For sure.
All right, so we left off with the prosecution gearing up for Tammy Moore's trial.
Right, and they had these two new pieces of evidence.
Game changers, you said.
Yeah, major game changers.
All right, lay it on me.
Okay, so the first one involves a bombshell revelation.
A bombshell?
From Tammy's own cousin.
No way!
Yeah.
Her own cousin?
He comes forward claiming that Sydney showed him a photo of Heather.
Wait, a photo of Heather?
After she vanished.
Why would Sydney do that?
And what did the photo show?
Right.
Well, according to the cousin, the photo showed Heather with injuries.
Injuries? Like what kind of injuries?
Blood and scratches on her face.
Oh my gosh.
He even testified that, based on the photo, he believed Heather was deceased.
That's chilling.
It is.
But they weren't charged with murder.
Right.
So how did this even come up in court?
Well, the prosecution couldn't directly say that Heather was dead in the photo.
Okay.
But they were clever about it.
What'd they do?
They asked the cousin if he ever expected to see Heather alive again.
Oh, smart.
And his answer,
yeah.
No.
Wow.
Powerful stuff.
That pretty much confirms it, right?
It definitely supports the prosecution's theory.
That Heather was no longer alive?
Exactly.
But what about the photo itself?
They never found it.
Okay, so...
But remember the deleted GPS data from Sydney's truck?
Yeah.
This is where that second piece of evidence comes in.
Okay.
The prosecution. They decided to look at the footage from the Moore's new security system.
But that footage was useless, right?
Well, not exactly.
What do you mean?
They weren't looking at the missing time frame. They were looking at the days after Heather disappeared.
I don't get it. Why would they do that?
They were looking for anything suspicious.
Suspicious?
Yeah, any clues that might point to a cover-up.
Okay.
And they found it.
What? What'd they find?
The footage showed the Moores washing Sydney's truck.
The truck from Peachtree Landing?
The very same.
Okay, they washed a truck.
Just days after Heather vanished.
That doesn't sound very incriminating.
Well, it's not the car wash itself.
Okay.
It's the details.
Details.
They were super focused on the rear passenger side.
Okay.
Scrubbing the inside of the door, the handle.
Okay.
Like they were trying to remove something specific.
Oh, I see.
Trying to get rid of evidence.
Like in those crime shows?
Exactly.
But it gets worse.
Way worse.
What'd they do?
After washing the truck, they burned the rags they used in a burn pit.
They burned the rags.
And then they pressure washed the driveway.
Wow, they went all out.
Doesn't that seem a bit excessive for a car wash?
Right, like they were trying to hide something?
Exactly. It screams guilty conscience.
Right.
It was such weird behavior that it became a key piece of evidence.
So the prosecution had this new evidence. They went after Tammy.
Yep. Her trial took place in 2018.
Okay.
And the prosecution, they laid out this whole story.
Okay.
They said she was the mastermind.
The mastermind.
Behind the whole kidnapping.
Wow.
Driven by jealousy.
Yeah.
And this need for control.
It's amazing how these little digital traces,
right.
A payphone call, deleted messages,
deleted data,
even a car wash.
Yeah, it all adds up.
Painted this picture of guilt.
It's like a digital fingerprint.
And it shows that even in our digital age, the physical world still holds clues.
Absolutely. The prosecution highlighted Tammy's controlling behavior.
Right. Like
she homeschooled the kids.
Yeah.
Kept tabs on Sydney all the time. And her reaction to the affair. Totally. It all pointed to someone who would go to great lengths to protect her perfect life.
Tammy even testified, right?
She did.
Did it help her case?
Not really. The jury wasn't buying it.
Okay.
After 11 days.
11 days.
They came back with a guilty verdict.
Wow. So guilty of kidnapping?
Kidnapping and conspiracy to kidnap.
What about Sydney?
They retried him.
With the new evidence?
Yep. In 2019.
Okay.
This time they had the cousin's testimony.
About the photo?
And the truck cleaning footage.
Okay. So what happened?
Guilty.
Kidnapping?
Kidnapping and conspiracy.
Wow. So
both Sydney and Tammy sentenced to 30 years in prison.
30 years?
Each.
Wow.
It's a victory for digital forensics, for sure.
It really is.
It shows how even the smallest details can help solve a case.
Like a digital breadcrumb trail.
Exactly. And it reminds us
of what?
That in our digital age, our actions leave traces.
Even if we try to erase them.
Exactly.
Heather's case is a chilling reminder that even in paradise, like Myrtle Beach, darkness can be lurking right beneath the surface.
It's a story of betrayal.
Obsession.
The consequences of jealousy.
Yeah, justice has been served.
But the mystery remains.
What really happened to Heather that night?
We may never know.
Her body was never found.
No closure for her family.
This deep dive has left me with so many questions.
Me too.
Heather's case is closed.
Officially, yeah.
But there are still so many unanswered questions.
It's a reminder that some mysteries may never be fully solved.
And that's what makes this case so haunting.